Now we look at the slope of the graph of y equals 1 over x plus 5 at the point xy. Okay, so if we have x on the x-axis, if our x value, in other words, is x, then our y value is 1 over x plus 5, so at the point x, 1 over x plus 5 lies on the graph. If x plus delta x is another nearby point, then the coordinates of the graph at that point are x plus delta x, and what we get by replacing x here with x plus delta x, 1 over x plus delta x plus 5. The slope, rise over run, well, the rise is y coordinate minus y coordinate, 1 over x plus delta x plus 5 minus 1 over x plus 5, the y coordinate here. And the x coordinate changes by delta x. It's going to be x plus delta x minus x. That just simplifies to delta x. What are we going to do with this expression? Again, if delta x approaches 0, this expression isn't going to help us because this, as delta x approaches 0, approaches x plus 5 in the denominator. So we have 1 over x plus 5 minus 1 over x plus 5. In other words, the numerator is going to approach 0 as delta x approaches 0. The denominator also approaches 0. 0 over 0 being undetermined, we get no information if we let delta x go to 0 while the expression is in this form. What's the obvious thing to do? Well, we can do this subtraction. Just find a common denominator and express this in terms of the common denominator and see how that works out. So our common denominator is going to be x plus delta x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 5, and we're going to achieve that denominator as we see it down here. Ignore the delta x for a minute, we'll explain that. As we see the denominator down here, if we multiply this fraction, 1 over the x plus delta x plus 5, by x plus 5 over x plus 5, and this expression with denominator x plus 5 by x plus delta x plus 5 over x plus delta x plus 5. So, using, in other words, the standard way of expressing everything with a common denominator, the numerator is going to become x plus 5 minus the quantity x plus delta x plus 5 over the common denominator. And if you ignore the delta x, that's exactly what we have here. Now, where's this delta x come from? Well, all this is divided by delta x, which means that this fraction here would be multiplied by the reciprocal of delta x. Well, multiplying all this by the reciprocal of delta x, we get the delta x in the denominator, and that should hopefully be obvious. Okay, if we simplify the numerator, we just get negative delta x. It's very obvious if you simplify this, I don't think you'll have any trouble, that you're going to get delta x. And then we have a delta x in the denominator, so we can divide this delta x by this delta x, and what do we get? We get negative 1 over x plus delta x plus 5 times x plus 5. Okay, the limit then, as delta x goes to 0 of this expression, which I've rewritten here, as x goes to 0, x plus delta x plus 5 approaches x plus 5. So we just get negative 1 over x plus 5 times x plus 5, or negative 1 over the quantity x plus 5 squared. Okay, that's the solution here. Now, I'll comment, people in class had a problem deciding what the coordinates of this point corresponding to x coordinate x plus delta x should be. And even when I say, well, we just put the x plus delta x in here as the x value, and there was still some uncertainty about what we were talking about. So we went through a series of substitutions to clarify what it means to substitute something like x plus delta x. Okay? The expression is 1 over x plus 5. So if x equals 7, without looking, what's the value of y? Well, if x is 7, then we have 7 here. We have 1 over 7 plus 5, or 1 over 12. Now, what if the x value is q. What do we get? Well, we're going to replace x by q. We're going to get q plus 5 here, so we get 1 over q plus 5. What if the x value is a plus b? Again, we replace x by a plus b, and we get 1 over a plus b plus 5. What if the x value is aardvark? Okay, well, that's not clear just what in the world that might mean, but if I say x equals aardvark, then your response is going to be, well, then the y value for this function is 1 over aardvark plus 5. We should understand that. So there we have it. And what if the x value is aardvark plus h? Well, then x becomes aardvark plus h, and we have aardvark plus h plus 5 in the denominator, giving us this expression. Now, what if we have x plus h? Well, we replace x by x plus h, and we have 1 over x plus h plus 5. And if we have x plus delta x, finally, this should be fairly obvious by the time we get down here. Then, if the x value is x plus delta x, then we replace the x here by x plus delta x. We get 1 over x plus delta x plus 5, which is, of course, what we have here and what we have for this coordinate.